Hey Bat fans, Luke here on this holiday weekend, ready to bat chat about another Bat book, and today we're going to take a look at Batman Black and White Volume 4. If you look at my channel, I've been reviewing the volumes of Batman Black and White, but I did not do number 3. Technically I did it, just the file got kind of messed up and when I tried to upload it, I didn't want to do it again, so I'll circle back and do Volume 3 later. But I did want to go ahead and talk about Volume 4 now, so because I did enjoy Volume 4 and have some thoughts to hopefully like to share with you. This is the volume that actually occurred during the New 52, so this is relatively recent, and man, this cover is awesome. The Jim Lee cover with zombies you'll see kind of reference earlier in the pages with in a story by Neil Adams. But with Volume 4, how this review is going to go, I'm going to do things a little bit differently because I'm going to try to keep the video a little bit shorter in length. So Volumes 1 and 2, I kind of went by story and kind of did a review of every story in the book. This one I'm going to do things a little bit differently. So I'm going to start and I'm going to go through the entire book beginning to end, and stories that I ranked number 30 to 7. I'm just going to tell you where I ranked them as they come in the book, along with their score, but then I will circle back and I'll go 6 through 1 and kind of go a little bit more in depth. I figure this way to just kind of keep the video a little bit shorter, but without further ado, I said we just go ahead and jump right into it. And the first story is a story called Don't Know Where, Don't Know When. I actually ranked this story number 10 and gave it a 3.5 out of 5. This is a simple story of Batman gone missing and Robin trying to hunt him down. And he enlists the help of Superman to find Batman, and how they do find Batman was actually pretty damn clever. This one was done by a script by Chip Kidd with Michael Cho as art. It was a very fun story. Put it in the top third of the book with a score of 3.5 out of 5. Actually, and coming in number 9 was the story Batman Zombie. This was written and drawn by Neil Adams. And this is basically a story of people trying to come to Batman for help. In some case, Batman can help, but one of the instances he can't. He actually shows up in like the zombie form. And this kind of reminds me of the line in The Dark Knight and then Dark Knight Rises, when Alfred's trying to persuade Bruce to kind of not go about the problem in the way of Batman, but going in the way of Bruce Wayne. He's like, Gotham doesn't need Batman in your body anymore. It needs Bruce Wayne and his resources. If you kind of understand that concept, this story will kind of resonate with you through those lenses. But art was great. Ranked this as the number 9th best story with a score of 3.5 out of 5. Next story is Justice is Served. This is written by Joe Quinones with art by Maris Wicks. This is a story with Harley and Poison Ivy, where we actually have the tainted meat. Those who watched Walking Dead kind of get the gist a little bit, but hamburgers are tainted, which is causing people to get sick with the kind of like a symptom that will resemble something that came from Poison Ivy. Anyway, it was a fun story. I ranked this as the 19th best story and gave it a score of 3 out of 5. Next story is a story called Driven. This one I ranked as the number 22 out of 30 with a score of 2.5. And this is going to be kind of shocking because this actually has art by Sean Murphy with the script by John Arcudi. And the reason why it really didn't do too well for me, it's just a simple story, what if Batman would just soup up the Batmobile. I mean, visuals, it's great to look at, but the story to me just felt kind of mediocre. So I did rank this the 22 out of 30 with a score of 2.5 out of 5. Next story is it just missed out the ones I'm going to go more in depth. This is Head Games with a story by Howard Mackey and Chris Stanley doing art. I'm going to breeze through this really quick because this is actually Batman trying to track down the person that's going through and kind of murdering all these crime people and dismembering them. But the twist that occurs, didn't want to show it. This is a Scarface story. Again, I wish I could go more in depth, but to keep this video relatively short, the twist with Scarface and Wesker was just pretty good, and I did rank this as number 7 out of 30 with a score of 4 out of 5. Next one we are going to skip, which then leads us to a story called Into the Circle. This one written and illustrated by Raphael Gampa. This one's a pretty clever story. Gave this a ranking of 20 out of 30 with a score of 3 out of 5. It's a clever twist on, it appears it's the Joker, but spoiler, it's not really. But the art is great, but the story to me just felt a little simple. But there is an interesting little twist at the end. So Into the Circle, I gave a ranking again of 20 out of 30 with a score of 3 out of 5. Next one is a story called A Place in Between. This is written and drawn by Raphael Albuquerque. This one was fun. I actually wanted to get this higher than it actually is, but I only ranked this 16th out of 30 with a score of 3.5 out of 5. This is Batman stuck in this kind of fear state where he's kind of reliving some of the bad things that's happened in his life. But the person that's kind of guiding him through it, I can't remember the Greek mythology where you're kind of stuck in passage on your way to either heaven or hell. Hades, is it? I can't remember for sure. That might be it. But the person that's kind of transporting Batman along turns out to be someone else, and I don't want to spoil it. But you might be able, if you kind of read it, you kind of get the gist with the fear. I'll leave it at that. Fun story. One I wanted to rank higher, but when you kind of rack and stack everything, it didn't really go as high as I wanted to. But 16 out of 30, 3.5 out of 5 is where I placed that story. Next story is a story called Winter's End. Ranked this number 28 out of 30. I gave this a 2. This is really just Batman fighting people like snow ninjas who may or may not have had the help from Mr. Freeze. Pretty simple, to be perfectly honest. Really didn't enjoy it all that much. Number 28 out of 30 with a score of 2 out of 5. Next one is a story called Silent Night, Unholy Night. This one I gave this one a ranking of 23 out of 30 with a score of 2.5 out of 5. This is kind of like, it's kind of going through like those old movies that you've seen back in the day, like early in the beginning, where you'll kind of have like a title card with some dialogue on it, but followed by scenes immediately follow. It kind of has that type of approach to the story. And while it does kind of encapsulate that with obviously the Batman design, to me, I just thought the story was pretty simple. It was okay. I mean, I didn't hate it. But to me, I just didn't put it really high compared to other really good stories. So I gave this number 23 out of 30 with a score of 2.5 out of 5. Next story, Rule number 1. I wanted to get this one higher too. This one is a story with art by Lee Bermejo. And this is basically someone that we don't really know for sure who this is. It's someone who's in training from Batman that is trying to go after this gang of drug lords. And the twist at the end, how Batman in this, you can't tell if this is, I don't think it's Dick Grayson, and I don't think it's Tim Drake, so I don't know if this is Jason Todd. I don't know. We really don't know who this person is, but they do come together to take down the crime gang here, the drug dealers. And the art was great, but again, compared to some of the other stories, just really didn't hang up that high. So I gave this one actually a number 8. Wanted to get this in that top 6, go more in depth, but did give this a 4 out of 5. This was fun. Next story, Hall of Mirrors. I ranked this number 21 out of 30 with a score of 3 out of 5. This is just Batman just going through his normal day with his rogue gallery. Kind of gave this a little bit higher grade than probably should have, mainly because of the art. I love the approach, the way the storytelling was told. So more of the visuals than anything. It was okay. 21 out of 30 with a score of 3 out of 5. Next one, we are going to skip this one. We will come back to it, which leads us to the next story. Crap. Namtab Babel comes to Gotham. I ranked this number 29 out of 30. Gave it a 2 out of 5. It tried to be clever, trying to break the wall with the fourth, try to break the fourth wall, and kind of tell a story through the approach of a comic. It looked good, but other than that, I read it a couple times. To me, I just couldn't get into it. So that's kind of where I left that one. 29 out of 30 is what it is. Next one. This is Role Models. This is I ranked this number 11 out of 30 with a score of 3.5 out of 5. This is actually a much better. I don't want to say that. It's another Harley and Poison Ivy story where they encounter this individual who is running away from a child abuser, and the approach you're trying to tell in this story is that sometimes the bad people have good qualities. This kind of shows up in here. The art. This was written by Paul Dini, art by Stephanie Rocks. I'm butchering that name. Whatever, that's fine. It was a really good story. Art was great. It was just a darn good story. Just kind of show you, compared to everything else, I'm really ranking this at number 11 out of 30 with a score of 3.5 out of 5. Wish I could go more in depth, but this was good with a really good message, to be perfectly honest. Next story, Ghost of Gotham. I gave this the number 17 out of 30 with a score of 3 out of 5. This was a story by Nathan Edmondson with art by Kenneth Rocafort. Kenneth Rocafort, to me, Red Hood and the Outlaws. This was a really good story to look at, but a very simple story. It's Batman goes up against an invisible man, uses his gadgets to track him down. Simple, but really fun to look at. But that's really about it. So that's where I gave that one ranked as number 17 out of 30, score 3 out of 5. Next story, Tminus Party. I gave this a ranking of 26 out of 30 with a score 2.5 out of 5. It's a simple story. Batman going against the Penguin, who actually turns the table on Mad Hatter. This is written by Mike Allred and Lee Allred. Is that the Allreds? With art by Mike Allred. Interesting approach to the art. Some of this Allred you kind of remember, some of the Batman 66 stories, but to me, 26 out of 30. I just really wasn't into the story that much, and the art was okay, to be perfectly honest. Next story we're going to skip and go into the next story, which should be Even in the Darkest Moments. This one I gave a rank at 25 out of 30 with a score of 2.5 out of 5. This is just another case of Batman going against Killer Croc. Simple story, but that's really about it. Man, this video is going longer than I wanted it to be. I tried to hurry this up. Next one. This is actually the worst story to me. Man missing in action. I gave this one a stellar 1.5 out of 5 with a 30 out of 30. It's just Batman going up against this robot creature, which we'll see later. Brainiac, whatever. Put it nicely. Next story. Hell Knight. I gave this one a story of 18 ranked at 18 out of 30 with a score of 3 out of 5. This is just Batman going up and testing out his defenses of the Batcave in Wayne Manor once a year. It was good, fun to look at, but really that was really it though. So 18 out of 30 with a score 3 out of 5. Cat and Mouse. This one I gave rank. This is number 24 out of 30 with a score of 2.5 out of 5. This is a case of someone going up, a bad guy meeting with other bad guys at a bar. Counting the case, him come up against Batman and yeah, blah blah blah. Yeah. There's a reason why I'm not really going too far in depth with this. There's a twist at the end of the bartender who it is, but that's really about it. Next one. This is Flipside. I gave this a rank of 12 out of 30 with a score of 3.5 out of 5. This is written by Lynn Wein. This is actually a pretty decent Two-Face story. Where we actually have Nightwing come in, teaming up with Batman to bring him down. Very simple story, but very fun at least too. I like the twist at the end. Read it through. It's kind of like Batman being a snob, but I enjoyed the heck out of that one. So, yeah, there is Flipside. We will skip the next one. Go to I Killed the Bat, which we will not do that one. That's one I just tried to skip. Oh no. Hope. This one written by Jimmy Palmiotti. I gave this a ranking of 15 out of 30 with a score of 3.5 out of 5. Simple story, just Batman come up against someone who he actually gets him on the straight and narrow. So it's simple story, but it is what it is. So gave that one a 15 out of 30 with a score of 3.5 out of 5. Good story, good to look at. Next one, Clay. This one I gave a ranking of 13 out of 30. Wanted this to rank up higher too with a score of 3.5 out of 5. This one written and drawn by Cliff Chang. Cliff Chang, I remember art. Wonder Woman with Azzarello, recently Paper Girls, and some Batman Eternal covers too. This one kind of shows up early in the years of Dick Grayson teaming up with Batman and kind of how Jim Gordon kind of views him, as well as the police. And they come up against Clayface, and the way Clayface taken down was actually pretty darn clever. This was fun. Ranked this again 13 out of 30, 3.5 out of 5, and a very fun one to read. Next story, Bruce. I ranked this number 14 out of 30. This one has art by Becky Cloonan. Gave this a 3.5 out of 5. If you ever wondered how, the woman that Bruce Wayne kind of hooks up with, what their perspective of him is, and we kind of go in the dichotomy of the Batman persona too, how Bruce kind of balances the two personas. This is a unique perspective and kind of getting those two side stories of each other. So this one, good to look at, and pretty fun, but that's really about it. So I give this one a ranking of 14 out of 30 with a score of 3.5 out of 5. Next story, Batman Hiding in Plain Sight. This one I gave a score of 27 out of 30 with a score of 2.5, and really, hindsight, really should have gave this a 2. This is Batman going up against the robot, and really dialogue heavy, and art was meh, to be perfectly honest. So that's where I left that one. Number 27 was scored 2.5 out of 5. So now, if I remember right, yep, that's where we're going to go ahead and stop. Let's go back to number 6. This one is written, oddly enough, by Dan Didio. And, man, this one has a twist with it that encounters Kirk Langstrom as Man-Bat. And a thing that's implied, what happens with kids, it's a gut punch for the parents out there. But boy, this was art by J.G. Jones, so I just referenced in my last video with Wonder Woman and the Hecate. This was really fun. Man, was this a good story. Surprisingly coming from Didio. So, is what it is. I gave this a rank of 6 out of 30 with a score of 4 out of 5. Man, this was really fun. And the art is just awesome to look at. Let's see. Next one. trying to go through and find number 5. You have to bear with me on this as I try to find it. Boy, we're getting there. We're getting there. Really should have marked this. Okay, here we go. Back up one. Longest Day. This one is written in the art, I believe, by Dustin Gwinn. And this is just Batman and a great story with great art. Batman just going through what he normally goes through on a day. But he ends up with Catwoman at the very end, and they just kind of share like a sunset type of thing, or actually, it's the sun. What time does it say? Sometime after midnight, as they kind of watch, the day just getting really started in Batman's eyes. This was it's a simple story, but man, I enjoy the heck out of it. Oh, so good. Just a fun story to read. So anyway, I had number 5 out of 30, Long Day. That one, again, I gave a score of 4 out of 5. The next one, this is number 4. See if I can get this in before. Oh, that's not the one we want to look at, right? This one, To Beat the Batman. This one I gave a ranking of 4 out of 30 with a score of 4 out of 5. This is someone that tells a story of an individual who kind of slowly gets worse and worse through crime, and every time he gets busted, he gets a harder prison sentence, and his encounter with Batman becomes more violent. And this someone that he has a kind of crush with, which someone who might not like him for who he is, but kind of like the money and the lifestyle that he can provide her. It was a awesome story with a ending where it's just like you feel for him, man. It's like you got caught up in that life, and unfortunately makes a really bad decision, which you can kind of get. But man, this was a good story. Ranked this is the number 4th best story in here out of 30, with a score of 4 out of 5. Let's go to this next one. I ranked number 3 out of 30. This is An Innocent Man. This is written by Marv Wolpin, with art by Riccardo Bercelli. Man, this is an awesome story. Batman, who's trying to, this is like a detective type story, trying to get to the bottom of a case where he knows that there's someone who's on death row that shouldn't be there, but the twist at the end, which I don't want to give away, is one where Batman comes into this situation all the time. Is just kind of like the revolving door of Gotham, or not Gotham, of Arkham. You put the bad people away, but they keep coming back. But at the same time, Batman understands that, he got that golden rule. It's just an awesome story, again, with the twist, which I don't want to give toward the end of who the bad person is. But man, it's just, it's a very good detective story done in 8 pages. But boy, was this fun. I gave this, again, ranked it as the number 3 out of 30 with a score of 4.5 out of 5. This was good stuff. The number 2 book. This one is a story called I Kill the Bat. And this one is written by Blair Butler with art by Chris Weston. And this one, boy, was this awesome. It's another detective-ish type of story where Batman, it's kind of set in like the old Silver Age time, but very graphic story to say the least. Batman comes up against a case where someone is killing, brutally, by the way, her husband. In a way she says, he's interrupted, I got a deadline to meet and things like that. It's just awesome. But then it kind of comes up into a twist where you see the person actually kill Batman, what it appears. But we end up finding out is that this is like a story within a story. This is actually an inmate who's actually writing a comic book based on Batman, who it's implied brought her in for the murder of her husband. And she kills a guard, and they kind of like, hey, why did you do this? And she was like, hey, I got a deadline, and he was preventing me from meeting it. It was just, boy, it was just a fun story. Dark as hell. I was really surprised they kind of went there in how graphic the story was, but man, this was good. I gave this a score of 4.5 out of 5. Ranked this as the number 2 best story in here. And man, was that fun. And lastly, the number 1 story in Batman Black and White Volume 4. It's a story called She Lies at Midnight. This is written and drawn by Adam Hughes, and boy, was this good. Man, first off, Adam Hughes, I'm sure we know him from other ways. I just remember a lot of the most recent the covers. His art is just fantastic. And this is a story where it appears to be a Catwoman is paralyzed. And this is kind of go back to, it's going to ring through some of the themes you remember in Heart of Hush, where appeared Catwoman is sort of dead. Sort of. And her great, I can't remember the name of the story. The Catwoman was Sam Bradley. The one Brubaker wrote. Oh, it's driving me nuts. I can't remember it. But we do find out that Batman is aware of what happened, and he kind of links it to Barbara Gordon with them being crippled, and it's appeared actually Catwoman's going to be a cripple, and he just got to take it on the people that caused Catwoman to be in the predicament she's in. But there is a twist which I don't want to fully spoil here, in that Catwoman turns out to be okay, but there's a motive for what she did, why she did it, which you kind of get to the end. But this was just a awesome story. 8 pages less, just wow. Beautiful look at, and a really good Batman and Catwoman story. It just really, this one, read it a couple times too. You're going to get kind of like those flashbacks, some of those great stories. Again, Heart of Hush, kind of have little hints of themes that kind of nodded to that story. And then again, a story which I'm having a total brain fart right now, Brubaker wrote, with art by Darwin Cook, with Sam Bradley and the heist. It's forgetting me right now. So anyway, all in all, Batman Black and White Volume 4. I'm giving this a 4 out of 5. This was really good. The stories in this, a lot of good ones. Even some of the clunkers, save 2 of them, were all good. So I mean, really, 28 out of 30 stories, I would actually say, were pretty good to wow, fantastic. So highly recommend. 4 out of 5. Pick this up, and then enjoy it. So anyway, those are my thoughts on Batman Black and White Volume 4. Hit me up in the comments below what you thought about this book if you read it. We'll bat chat and go from there. And then at some point, I'll circle back to Volume 3. So anyway, have a great holiday weekend, and until next week, until next video, take care.